Justin.
Okay, we have minutes from February 16th. They look complete to me. Any comments or concerns?
Nope. I haven't changed.
I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
John?
Yes.
Mike? Yes. TJ?
Yes. Okay. In the process of doing some work on Stafford Road and the reconstruction project, we asked Mr. Dale Ryan to come up tonight. Had some concerns about some structures in the right-of-way. And John, you want to take it from there? Is it?
Yeah. Emmerich has met with Mr. Ryan several times, and there's an issue with a building and a tree that's in the road right away, and it's an old building. And so he had asked Emmerich, we review this further with the engineers. We did. Had quite an extensive discussion with them. And a couple of issues come up is that the building sits within the right-of-way, but also within what they call the clear zone, which is an area that's a shorter area from the edge of the road. And so you can't really have any objects in the clear zone that would, as he said, pose a hazard to the motor public. So it becomes an issue, what about this? It's a liability issue, is what it is. And so they had reviewed several things, could you put them on and whatnot. It's too close to do that. There's no space to have something maybe 18 inches high or something. So the answers that they came up with would be, one is Mr. Ryan may need to move the building, or two, we're going to have to put a guardrail up. So those are the two alternatives they came up with. And so I think that that would be our two choices. And actually, we're going to leave those to Mr. Ryan.
I'd rather you put up the guardrail than not put it.
Yeah. Well, you do have a liability issue here with this building that's out in the right. So.
Which is the way it stands right now.
Yeah, but I'll just caution you, it was interesting as I left this meeting. There's a road that goes right next to the door to our offices. Been there for 50 years, and there's light poles there. Been there for 50 years, and first time in 50 years, a guy drove into it and had an accident. And interestingly enough, that light pole is out of the clear zone, but still a guy in trouble. The amount of the chances of somebody hitting that is the same every day, I think. So, but that's up to you. So anyway, that would be the issue, and I would like to make a motion that we, prepare a letter, and we will advise Mr. Ryan that we'd like to have him either move the building by June 1st, 90 days, or we'll include we'll include the guardrail in that.
Is that something would the township put the foundation in for the building if we moved it in place of I'm just maybe cheaper than the guardrail. I don't know.
We did discuss the curbing as we did all.
We did all that.
But because of the clear zone and the engineering practice and how many feet that you are within the clear zone, they said because of the amount of traffic, the traffic counts, coupled with the speed limit on that road, that a 6-inch curbing would not keep someone safe in the building. So that the end result was the guardrail, which we agreed also. That, we're for that also, but if you want to go that route.
Okay. Yep.
And then Jack, once again, this will be rolled into the project itself.
Right.
Into the
It's part of the project.
Into the bid.
We are a bit under the gun
Yeah,
here.
right.
The last real issue to resolve. We're ready to get the finalized plans here, I think, by the 15th thereabouts. And so we can put the guardrail in, and then if you decide to move the building, we can always take it out. But that's how we could work that. So that's my motion.
Okay, second. John?
Yes.
Mike? Yes. BJ?
Yes. My apologies, you appear on the agenda as Jock Ryan. That's your neighbor, is Thompson, right?
Yes.
Right. Certain people like to nitpick about things like that, so my apologies. I know your Dale. You know your Dale.
Hey, Dale, are you staying for that meeting?
Yep.
I'll talk to you after the meeting. I don't know what paper.
Okay. We'll go public comment later, but get there some reports now. Kid golf department.
They requested 7 applications a month, issued 7 permits or conditional uses. One conditional use that was carried and renewed was the course of the pond, nice house, but some remodeling and accessory building. We did have 2 denials, which means we will have 2 cases before the Board of Appeals within the next 2 months. Did spend quite a bit of time with a gentleman from ODOT in reference to the proposed gas station on 44 at the freeway, and as it stands at this moment in time, the builder is going to have to resubmit the plan that the drawing that he submitted to ODOT. They will not approve for the egress entrance in and out because of the way he's got it. So
Too close to the entrance ramp?
too close to the entrance ramp. The gentleman said that the biggest issue is the way he's got it proposed. The truck coming off the freeway or coming out of that driveway, the way he has it drawn would be very tough to get in, But if he were to make it an in-out only, in other words, one is in and one is out, it might work with that configuration, but they'd have to come to the north one to enter and enter out the south end. And so I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But that's what's been part of what's been holding the project up is the fact that, but I made it very clear to that gentleman from ODOT that first of all, I did inform him prior to the purchase of either property that he better go to ODOT and make sure what he wants to do, he can do. And I said so. But I said at the same time, I think the township would like to see a service station there. So I said, see what you can do. And then he brought up something, and I didn't get a chance to research it, about a EIF that the trustees, something that the trustees can do to generate revenue in that area, create something. And I said, I'll just mention it now until I do some research. I don't even know what it is, But he was driving when he called me back. That's all I have.
Give an idea what the time frame is for them to submit and for them to
Well,
approve the documentation.
I think he submitted it and is requesting a variance, and the impression I got from the gentleman from ODOT that they are going to deny the current configuration and suggest he come back with another He said, I'm not saying that he can't do it, I'm just saying that configuration is not feasible to ODOT's way of thinking. So, but he can choose to fight it if he wants, you know. But, we'll see what happens. That was what I heard Friday afternoon. So.
Well, gentlemen, if you want to go in, there's chairs in that closet there.
Right there.
Right there?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone with any questions for Mr. Kitco regarding zoning? And we'll move on to another report tonight, and that will be from Emmerich Gordon, the road superintendent.
Okay, Auburn Township Road Department report for February 2015, so long February. February was exceptional with below average temperatures and continual snow. There were 20 weather events that required 32 rounds of plowing and or salting. A total of 752 tons of de-icing material was used. That does represent the second highest quantity that we did use during the month of February. Currently, we have approximately 300 tons of road salt on hand, so we're good there for the next couple of weeks out. You should have a resolution there. That's the balance of our committed amount for our 2014 contract. We'll go ahead and submit that and get that in. I think this week they already have their sheet up for who they're supplying salt to. And by the time it comes around, we should be okay to get that 400. That does not represent the 20% over that we are able to get. And then what we'll do once again, the balance of the salt that we have in there will be at last year's price. If we store in our dome, I usually have 500 to 600 tons of salt from the previous contract in the dome. Okay, due to an absence of thawing, equipment was sent out during the lulls to move large piles of snows at intersections, cul-de-sacs, and drifted areas. I still have a lot more of that to go. We may put the grader out on the road here and hit some of those piles down. We'll see how this week pans out with the rain. Coal patching was done when possible. We did use 1 ton of material on East Washington Street and 2 tons on Taylor May Road. And once again, once it's clear and I get weathered, we'll go out there and hit the holes where they appear. We did have 1 full interment for the month, and that was up at Shady Side. And believe it or not, it's time to plan for roadside cleanup day. That time of year, so I'll go ahead and organize a dumpster, which we usually get donated from a company or for that event. And you guys will handle the hot dogs. That's all I got.
And remember when you said
Yes.
there was a resolution for the balance, you mean a
Requisition, I'm sorry. Requisition. I misspoke. I have a requisition up there for you guys for the balance. And Fred, I'll need that number off that one for tomorrow. When I call Cardinal.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone with any questions, concerns regarding roads? Thank you, Emmerich. Welcome. We'll move into scheduled reports. Mr. Everly?
A couple things. Emmerich, we did have to do some repairs. We were down to trucks there for a while, but we had on our oldest new plow, we had to do some repairs. We found a weak spot in there, and that's 8 years old. We're going to go ahead and implement. There's no grease fitting on there, so we're going to implement that for all the other plows that we have like that. And then what was that? We had another a leak in one of
The turbo, the pressure lines for the turbo on truck 19.
and the guys fixed it themselves. So that was.
They did both fix them. We fabbed in a new part in the plow too, so that had to be cut out with a plasma cutter, new part put in. What had happened is it's a 2-train plow, and the bushing in between with the main pin, it's a 2-inch pin sits in there. It just disintegrated and was destroyed. Like you said, there's no zerk fitting. so it's metal to metal, and over a period of time it just wiped it out. So that is a wear part we found out, and they do send in a whole brand new thing with 2 flanges on it to re-weld back in the plow. So we didn't anticipate that. We thought we'd need a whole new table. I was like, no, that is a wear item. So.
Well, in the fix of that item, we needed to do some cutting, of course. We don't have a plasma cutter. And unfortunately, John brought his in for us. But I think it's something that we need to add to the tools in the garage down there, is to have our own plasma cutter in there. It would be extremely helpful. So I think maybe we should research that a little bit and see what we can do.
That's rough cost on something like that.
Pardon me?
What's the rough cost on a plasma cutter?
You might know.
$1,500, something like that. I don't think we need to go too big.
No, it's not something we're using for production work. Right?
No, but we need to be able to cut through probably at least half-inch steel.
Right.
We think would be very helpful. So I thought we'll research that if we get some kind of an item, capital item. And then the other thing is, last meeting we appropriated some funds to, start to do just an initial study, so to speak, space-wise, and so we're going to pursue that, just to come up and get an idea of what kind of construction and whatnot to add on to a couple bays, and maybe even get a rough budget, very rough budget, because what we still have to do is have somebody draw some plans.
Yeah.
So that was that. I'd like to go ahead then, and right now that Cargill's been, everybody can see they've been experiencing a quote shortage of salt. But I'd like to, as soon as they're kind of over that burp, go ahead and get the other 20% that we're allowed in under our contract.
Emmerich and I were talking today. Everything seems to be lining up for a major price spike on salt next year, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. The only thing would help is if we had some warm weather predicted. So we, talk to the Farmer's Almanac on that, I guess. But it's tough when you had 2 strong winters back to back like this. And so actually, they're on an allocation for last week and this week. And fortunately, we already had enough salt on hand that we didn't even ask for to be in the allocation of it. So hopefully when we go to get this next shipment in, there won't be any allocations.
What's typical usage for March?
Let's
say last year.
By all
the
rights,
highest is 296.
by all rights, we should have enough salt to get through March. So.
Well, I'm saying he's got 300 that'll get us through March, and then you got 400 coming in.
Yeah.
And we get another 400 on the allocation. So
You should ask my
yeah, we can do another 400.
so we can get that into the bin. Okay.
So, it's interesting. We keep that record, and we try to predict with it, but it's highly unpredictable. The other issue is that, the level of service that we've been delivering is, the bar keeps going up higher. And so to accomplish, right, just to remind you that in 1994, the township purchased 2,000 pounds of salt in 80-pound bags. And everyone drove on hard pack when we put cinders down. It was a mess, but we didn't ever try to melt the salt or the snow and the ice, and we just plowed. So we're now looking at, black roads 8 hours after an event. It's desirable, and so we're going to use more. It's the inevitable thing. But I have to say, I think the guys did a hell of a job here for us. We continue to use the smallest amount of salt. Anybody in the area, other than our one neighbor who's not putting any out.
You need this bag ready?
No, I got multiple copies.
Okay.
So that's what we got going on.
Rick, did you say 752 tons were used in February?
Yeah, last February, 752. Yes.
This year?
Yes, this year.
So it looks like we got an event coming up here tomorrow night, and we need some warm weather.
It's warm today, I thought.
Yeah, Saturday seemed awful warm, except for it was just sunshine and
It's in the 40s tomorrow, and then back down to
yeah.
teens.
Yeah.
That should make for a mess.
And, one other thing, and you might want to try. Emmerich and I took a ride down to Sanctuary, and we've got just major heaving. There's nothing you can do about it.
I was going to ask you,
But they did call up and talk to Emmerich, it was interesting as we had just driven in a couple of days earlier, but I mean you can't even 10 miles an hour maybe.
we really, freeze thaw hasn't happened yet. So,
So we're hoping that this thing's going to heal up a little bit when thaw comes. But we got, there's going to be some full depth repairs in there where there's 20 feet or so of the road split at the center line. And it's starting to open up.
They should have load limit reduction signs right about now, don't they?
Yeah.
We have. They've already, matter of fact, they passed the county's already passed a little bit.
This sanctuary's over at the old fish farm.
Yeah.
It was always wet there.
It's always
not
been
wrong.
wet.
And it goes down in the lower part there, so there's a lot of moisture on the road there.
It's just an issue where, and you're these, the heavings probably would, as you say, every 6 to 8 feet. So, it's not nothing.
Even if it's flat, it's still got to go in.
Well, hopefully the frost will come out and it'll start to level out a little bit. But now there's some large centerline cracks. There's, we have Sanctuary on our radar here for 2 years right now.
18 I had it on.
Yeah, 18.
So we'll have to see where it sits.
Seasons after this year, so. We're watching it. I mean, right now, there's nothing that's we can really do about it. Similar to like driving down Munn right now.
Well, East Washington's breaking up here too.
My driveway's covered with 2 inches of ice, so I can't
Well,
tell
you're
what
in
it's
good shape. You're in good shape. Then keep
It's
going.
full of odd stuff down.
So that's what we got.
That's what you got, Mike. You got a report?
Just one thing I want to go over is, it's getting that time we're going to be meeting with the fireworks committee at Bainbridge. And last year I was the representative for it. And I don't know if anybody else was interested.
I think
Just wanted to stick with it.
You were at the community ed meeting when we were up there a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, we're starting to kick around some things about the township's bicentennial, which is in 2017, and we share that same bicentennial date with, it's got to be 8 or 10 other townships. I think the only ones that are done with theirs is Chardon and maybe Burton. But just most of the other townships in the county have that same date. And spinning out of the fireworks success, and it was a success, we started to discuss a joint celebration of the bicentennial. Chardon had one, so there's some history there. We have a lot of written, documented history, and some people that remember it too from the sesquicentennial here in 1967. So I know at Bainbridge they've spoken about it at public meetings, and they've gotten a couple members of the public to volunteer already on the planning committee. And according to Jeff Markley, who's been involved with a couple of these things for different municipalities, 2 years of planning is not too much. So, Mike, that's probably going to come up. So,
Well, maybe we should put out a thing for for people that are interested in working on
We've been gathering some stuff. Like I said, we've got a lot of the things that were in the museum. There was a lot of it up there. We've got a couple of binders together that are more, in organized form as to what was done 50 years ago. Not saying we're going to repeat it, but there might be some things in there that would be worth bringing back. So,
I'm sure the existing fireworks committee, see most of the people are the same people I worked with last year, and it'll be a good core of people to start with. I'm sure they'd be interested in working on that also.
the thought wasn't to, downplay Auburn's bicentennial by any stretch, but if you had every township doing a similar thing, we'd all be in competition with the same services, tents, recreation, bouncy houses or whatever we're going to do, food vendors, everything. We'd be all, it'd probably be easier to do half the events than double, and it would work better that way. But that's my thoughts, and if anybody wants to contribute or be part of a planning committee on that, let us know, please. Sorry, Mike. Step in. No.
And I'll go into it a little bit. PJ and I were at the Girl Scout Silver Award ceremony last week, and it was a nice turnout. And Jeff Markey was there, and Senator Eklund was there. Judge Grindell, Diane, and Tim were both there. It was a nice ceremony. The girls did a really good job on their projects, and it was nice to recognize them and the work they do. And it's quite an accomplishment for them, especially at that age. All yours, PJ.
I got a list of a few things here. One is we got some scouts here tonight, and we got an Eagle Court coming up on Sunday, correct?
Yes.
We got Jonathan Wiegand and
Should be AJ
Stanonis, yeah, Andy Stanonis.
It'll be at the Adam Hall at 1 o'clock.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. Forward to that. Grants. Emmerich brought up cleanup day, and we've also we get a grant package for that too, with gloves and vests and stuff coming. Submitted the reimbursement for the Christmas tree grant, and we've got an application out for the Scrap Tire One grant for June cleanup day, which is the first Saturday in June, whenever that is. I met with the zoning commission wanted me up here the other day. We talked about updating the land use plan, which is due. And we discussed a couple of things. I was up here about 25 minutes. That clear zone quote that we talked about at the last meeting that was substantially higher than we were led to believe it was going to be. Commission's about as lukewarm on that as we were here. It's a nice idea, but the cost looks pretty high, and ultimately they kind of own you, whereas if you want to do an amendment or update your book, you got to work through them. Probably a better way and a more economical way to do that. So, unless there's some great demand for Clear Zone to come out and do a presentation, I don't think we're going to ask for one. The land use plan update, which is due every about 10 years, it should be done, and we're pretty much right on schedule with that, 10, 12 years. Talked to Planning Commission, who of course compiles 80% of that document. What they want from us now, or within the next month, inventories. When I say inventories, it's like what has the township put on new in the last 10 years, which would be Adam Hall didn't appear in that one. Of course, we got the park now. 24/7 staffing at the fire station, which wasn't in then. Chief, you can think of anything else, get with Nancy. We're just kind of putting an inventory together, what we've done from the administrative end of things. There was a couple other things that Nancy started on there too. And the other part of that inventory is what has zoning done in the last 10 years. And the passive open space district wasn't there. Riparian zoning was not there. And I just asked them to put together a list of what PUD's gone now. Right. So, the major changes that they've done is what I asked if they could, go ahead now the next month. And then planning has people working on the other things, the mapping, the soil maps, the USGS water studies, which are ongoing. Well, it's a big book. There's a lot of different pieces of information involved. And if we get this to them within a month, Dave figures he's got a couple of months of compiling this other stuff. And then maybe by summertime we'll get to the recommendations part of it. So it's underway. And that's all I have. Fred?
I have presented you guys with some warrants. Warrants 2191 through 225, total $39,700.74. Also giving you the fund status report as of today's date, revenue status, and appropriation status. I am wrapping up our end of year report, and next meeting I plan on that's it.
Okay. Cleaned up the old business part of the last meeting, so I guess we'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment tonight? Yep.
Two questions. The first one concerns the land use plan. Is it not correct that the last land use plan was 1992?
That's not true.
When was it?
I think it was 05.
Land use plan? That's interesting because we asked for the latest one, and the latest one that we gained access to was 1992 at the time. And Fred, the Cargill warrant 2225, the $29,250.52. About how many tons and at what rate was purchased?
It is that's roughly $50 a ton. I would have to pull the invoices for you to tell you how many. I mean, you can do the math on there, but it's
Right. So actually, then.
But that's not for the full. It's not for the full.
Okay, so it's not going to be in two batches then, because it was my understanding from our communication that there would be like two.
There's more
equal purchases.
There's more that are coming up, but the way that we get invoiced isn't necessarily by the way we order it. It's based on how it's delivered. So we'll get portions of deliveries,
right,
and then they invoice us kind of on an irregular basis, so it's not always
so they're like partial anyway.
connected to the order. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Thanks everybody for coming up tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.